Chatty, and this is my channel, Chatty the Mad Chatter, where I talk about all the books madly. And today I'm going to be doing my February wrap-up, so I'm talking about all the books that I read in February.
So here is everything that was on my list of possibilities. And this is everything that I'm either currently reading or that I didn't get round to reading. And this is everything that I did read.
So I'm going to talk about the books that I didn't get to or that I'm still reading. So January I started reading this book. It was one of the books that I wanted to read sort of in the winter because it's a snow child and I was really keen for that, and I was enjoying all the wintry kind of magic I was getting from the Winter Nights series. And then when I was playing my January book game, this kind of came up as one that I got my eldest to pick out for me, and it ended up being this one. But unfortunately, I didn't manage to get around to reading it. Now it's so far away, like a chapter, it just feels like I'm not really reading it. So I think it's going to go back on the shelf. I might randomly pick it up in the summer and feel like a winter read, or I might save it for next winter, or it might come out in a book game, I don't know, but I'm just going to have to put this one back on the shelf. It's not going to get read anytime soon because there's so many other things that I want to be reading at the moment. I've read the introduction of this book, Bloody Brilliant Women by Cathy Newman, and I'm really enjoying it. This is a book that I'm just going to be taking my time with. I'm going to be kind of dipping in and out as I'm reading other things. I really enjoyed that first chapter. It's just kind of given an overview of, I suppose, of women that we know of in history, and so it's quite interesting. It's fascinating. I'm looking forward to, we're just kind of getting up to the point of suffrage in here, so it's going to really kind of pull into this because this is mainly about the past kind of century. So like from as well look and give you the exact dates. So from 1880, when they really start pushing for like women's rights, and kind of onwards, this is kind of what it's really about. So I'm really looking forward to this and really excited by it. And then I am reading The Pillars of the Earth by Ken Follett, which is the first book in the Pillars of the Earth series. I think that they're all more companion novels than following on any kind of story. This is a historical fiction and I am enjoying it. There were some moments where I was like, oh, cringe, not sure about that. It was written in 1989, but it's written really well, and there's a lot of other bits in between that it doesn't feel like relentless with any kind of unsavoury aspects of life in the Middle Ages, and kind of how that it could have possibly been portrayed as more of a shock factor to kind of produce that emotion, rather than did we need it so gratuitously, if that makes sense. But generally, I am really enjoying this. I am very much a sucker for, it sounds really boring, an underdeveloped like business concept or like entrepreneur and how they make it happen. So in this we've got like the Priory trying to establish itself to like be better financed and to be able to do things like building a cathedral, and we also have a noble woman who has to make her way in the world and trying to find a way to make money. How should she make money when everything has been taken away from her? And we also have the construction of this cathedral. So I am really enjoying all of those kind of like slice of life details as well. But obviously there are characters in here that are exciting. But I haven't finished it yet, so I'm not really talking about it. That's my next chapter. That is a chapter. So it's big. We're getting there slowly, and I am enjoying it. Okay, on to the books that I didn't even touch, and it makes me sad. Let's start with the big one. It's on top. How did I not start this? How? I've been waiting for ages to start this. How did it not happen? Probably because I have so many other things to be reading, and it's massive. It's not a quick read, and also it's pretty. I can't sit at the breakfast table and be reading this whilst, you know, spooning cereal into my face, and I can't do that. It needs to be sitting reading in my chair, and I don't have a lot of time. I haven't got a lot of time for that at the moment. It's very much kind of read on the go, and as well as making time in the evening. So this hasn't happened yet because I haven't had that mood-free moment. But it's in my plans, so I'm just maybe in March gonna pop it onto March and try and get 2 of the Stormlight Archive read in March. We'll see how it all goes. But it will be read. But I'm just really sad that I didn't get it into February. But hey, there we go. I can still read it. It's not the end of the world. I'm also sad about these as well. I didn't get to Harriet Tubman. I'm looking forward to just learning more about her life. I have kind of looked up and there are so many books out there that look really interesting. So I think when I have less plans, I will find more books in the library about her. But yes, I didn't get to this one, and I should do because it's really quick and easy, but we'll see. And these two, if you saw, if I've got round to posting what I'm planning to read in February, these are from my draft version of my book game, which I'm still very much working on and is not anywhere near as close as I want it to be. So I had to find a book that was that was 440 pages, and this was like 437, and this is like 441. So both of these I'm really keen to read. But there's actually a March read along for this on the channel, on Evie's channel. She Was Only Evie. On She Was Only Evie. She's doing a read of this on her Discord. So I was planning to read it in March anyway, hence me not picking it up. And again, The Hate You Give. I'm so excited for this book and I so want to read it. But again, I want to read it where I can properly like immerse myself in it. And because I was kind of like partly reading one book, partly reading another, and had other things, it just wasn't the moment for it. I'm just so lucky to have all these wonderful books to read. Let's get into the ones I actually read. When I talk about book length, I compare them to animals. So any book that is less than 150 pages, I call it an ant-sized book. Less than 300 pages is a mouse-sized book, but obviously more than 150. 301 to 500 pages is cow size. 501 to 700 is elephant sized. 701 to 900 is big blue whale size. And 900 pages and more is a dinosaur sized book. So my reading stats for this month are I read 9 stories, 3 of which were ant sized. They were under 150 pages. 4 of which, that was the Nella Larson books, 4 of which were cow-sized, which is 300 to 500 pages, and 2 of which were elephant-sized, which is 500 to 700 pages. In terms of this series, I've now finished 3 series, which is fabulous. So I finished the Winter Night trilogy, I finished the Faithful and the Fallen quartet, and I have finished the Frostheart trilogy as well. I've started a new series, so I started a duology, and I have made progress in the Inkspell trilogy. And let's start off. Let's start off with this. This was the first book I picked up. I couldn't decide what to pick up next. So I started this in January. I think I had 1 or 2 days where I knew that I wasn't going to be able to finish any more books in January. So I wasn't sure what to start. And so I was just kind of chatting with a few people on Discord saying this is roughly what I've got. And finishing off a series was the most popular option. And I'm really pleased because I feel like I want to just get... I want to get to the end of the Banished Lands. I want to find out how all it wraps up. I want to be in that world again with these characters and just enjoy myself. And having that like at the beginning of the month where you're just like, new month, let's just read. And I just read this and I just read this and where do I start with this book? I still think that Ruin is probably my favourite just because of the like those almost kind of climax middle book payoff moments that you've been waiting for happened. But this was so good at pulling all the storylines together. Like it was like everything you were kind of waiting for, this culmination was good. So there was a lot of payoff in here, which was also amazing. But I think if I read the series again, this may end up being my favourite. I love rereading series like when you have passed that danger point of you're not worried about the characters, you're not worried about where the plot line's going, you know what to expect, so you can kind of relax and not be worried about it and just enjoy being in there and just enjoy being with the characters and just kind of, I think, take more from what the author does with it. Talk more about that later, but I have 2 rereads to talk about. This is not a reread. So I do feel that I'm going to love it even more on a reread. But for now, like I was racing through it to kind of like find out how it's all ending. And it is very classic fantasy, but it's very digestible. So it's very easy to read. The writing style is very clear. there are a lot of characters to follow, but you have a very nice key of all the different lands and all the different characters, so you can refresh yourself a little bit, which I did have to do because I read Ruin in September. I can't believe I left it so long. I left Ruin in September. But this is very bittersweet. It's realistic that not everyone is going to make it through to the end. And we had to say goodbye to some people, and some people made it to the end, and it ended. And I enjoyed it. There were emotional moments, many emotional moments. There was the battle scenes are so good. Like, it's so clear what's happening. It's like he's holding your hand and guiding you through it, so you can just see, you know exactly what's going on. You can picture it in your mind. You can read what's happening. It's very, I don't know what the word is, but it's very clear. I've said clear already. But exciting and interesting. And I think sometimes I don't always think that battles are when they should be. So it's really, really good. And you do have all the plot lines coming together towards the end. You have character arcs. Lots of these character arcs I really enjoyed. And I enjoyed how it ended, but there was still enough kind of left. So there is a series that kind of, is it 200 years later? He's written a trilogy. Can't say the word trilogy. He's written a trilogy that is then like 200 years after the end of this book, which I will definitely be getting hold of at some point. I don't know if I'll be able to get it this year. But I definitely do want to own that at some point and read that at some point. I think probably not this year because Shadow of the Gods, The Hunger of the Gods is out, and I want to reread Shadow of the Gods, and there's many other things I want to be reading. So probably not this year, but I'm very excited to get to it when I get to it. And I definitely will be rereading these at some point, and it ended the series brilliantly. I finished the series. I finished The Faithful and the Fallen, and I'm very, very happy about that. So that's done. Oh, next, I said I wanted to take part in Polathon.
The readathon was created by Jade from JD Ray Reads, and she also did the artwork as well, which is very beautiful. These are the prompts for Polathon. You can either choose the Explorer's Path, or you can choose the Arctic Animals Path, and each prompt gets you further up the mountain. And I have chosen the Explorer's Path.
And I had originally planned to read Frostheart in it as well, but it took me too long. I was taking too long with Winter of the Witch to be able to get to Frostheart as well. So Winter of the Witch was my going on a magical journey or magical adventure, and having a wintry word in the title, and we have winter. And so you can double up on prompts if they follow the journey up the mountain. So then we had foiling on the cover, and if you see, look at the flickery, like this, Even the Darkest Stars has got this blue foiling on there. This has got icy magic in it, and it is polar fantasy. So I did complete Polathon with these two books.
So I'm very proud to have taken part in Polathon for the first time this year, and that I managed to hit every one of these prompts with my two books. Yay!
So first of all, Winter of the Witch. I was also reading this for Evie's read along, which was reading all of the Winter Night trilogy from December, January, February. Now, I have been having the absolute best time rereading this series. I only recently read this. I read them April, June, and when did I read this one? Was it August? Was it September? I think it was August. Or it could have been July. Anyway, summertime. I read it in the summertime. And I love this. This was my favourite of the trilogy. And I have had such an amazing time rereading these. I absolutely loved this series. It is so beautifully done. And I think if you are someone who doesn't necessarily enjoy fantasy, but you really like historical fiction and you like the kind of like folklore, fairy tale tellings as well, I think you will really enjoy this. I think you should give it a go. So the first book, The Bear and the Nightingale, it has a much slower pace and it has more of a coming of age theme, and it is very much kind of the magical realism it's medieval Russia, but then some of the folklore characters are real. And then the Girl in the Tower had a much more human element to it. It's set in Moscow. There's more of political things happening, and it's kind of, both books are like setting up to be resolved in this book. So what happens in this book, and I love it on this cover, I think I've probably said this before, but I love that we have this cover and this. Now this is actually representing two of the pagan Cherokee, very cleverly. But what I really like with the enjoining of the two trees is I feel like it's very much like the events of the Bear and the Nightingale, which was much more about kind of the religious battle, the old pagan religion with the new Christian religion in Russia, their kind of like battle. And then A Girl in the Tower was much more of the political, what's going to happen to the fate of Moscow kind of idea. And then what happens in this book is like they're both pulled together. So it mixes things. And what I really love about it is that you think it's going to go one way, and it sort of does, but then it then goes another way as well. So I just love how it does it. It's great. And what I really love about this book is I love the Cherokee, and we get to have more time with the Cherokee, but I do also enjoy the characters we have in Moscow and the political side of it as well, and we get all of that in this book. And we get such an arc for Vasya. Like she is so true to herself. She's so true to herself, but she learns what she needs to do, and we just see that all culminate in this, and it is incredible. But it's truthful, and she is incredible. There is a romantic subplot, and it is amazing in terms of the characters don't lose sight of who they are. It's very much, it is a subplot, and the main plot of the story is the focus for both of those characters. But because of who they are, that kind of makes their relationship stronger, and it makes it more lovely, which is a very mini word for the big thing. I'm not an authority on medieval Russia, but within the chat group we had someone from Russia was very kindly giving us all the information about this is correct, this is what we learn about in our history lessons, this would have happened at this time. And her research is incredible. Like hearing all of that, how spot on her research is amazing. And it just helps the book to sing. She's done such a good job with this series. And above all, what I love most about it is the character of Vasya and how strong she is and how she fights to still be herself in a very patriarchal world. I mean, it's so oppressively patriarchal. Like women in Moscow more than the countries, you have more freedom in the countries, but in Moscow, like women have to live like separately in their own tower to like the men. It's so weird. But yeah, I love this book, and like I said about rereads, I've been able to appreciate it so much more because I'm not worried about where it's going. Like I have the confidence that it's going where it's going, and I'm happy. And I know that all of that is fine, so I can just enjoy. I can revel in those emotions. I can just appreciate what she's doing with the story and how it ties all of it together as a whole. And that is my winter night gush. You are welcome. You should read this series because it is amazing. And then the second book that I then read was Even the Darkest Stars. I wasn't sure what to expect. I didn't know much about this apart from I knew it was a polar fantasy, and I knew that it had a journey kind of possibly going around like the Himalayas. I loved the atmosphere in this. It was wonderful. I enjoyed the world building. I was intrigued by kind of like the history of the world. It is YA. It's not got loads of like fantasy layers of like lore and all of that, but it doesn't need loads. Like what it had was enough. I was engaged in the story. However, I feel like I have to reserve judgment on it. It's part of a duology, and I'm annoyed with myself because I found this for £5 on World of Books. £5. And it had the second book also for £5, but I was being good. I was like, no, let me read the first one and see if I like it. Of course, they now no longer have this on World of Books. I cannot find the second book on World of Books. And this is in hardback, so I want the other one in hardback. So we will see. I feel maybe I will read this again and then the other one. But I don't know what I'm supposed to be thinking about this. And I can't really say anything more because of spoilers, but I don't know who I'm supposed to be rooting for. Like the protagonist, it feels like the relationships she has, like a relationship with her sister, her childhood best friend, a new person. Is it a love triangle? Is it not a love triangle? I'm not sure what I'm supposed to be feeling. I know what I do feel, but I don't know if that's what the author wants me to feel. So I'm going to have to read the second book and find out. But if it's not how I want it to be, I will feel betrayed. So if it goes the way I want it to, then I will love this. But if it doesn't go the way I want it to, I feel like I have to read this with new eyes and decide what I think, if I've been led astray. So that's not very helpful. But if you enjoy YA books, if you enjoy like YA fantasy, you like simple plot, enjoyable fantasy world, some tropes, then you'll enjoy this. I really like the main character as well. I think she's really cool. Like, she has no magical abilities. She's just really good at climbing. And I love that. I think that's great. Yay, go her. Go climb. And her joy for it is wonderful. It's really great. So it's almost like, it feels like it should be one big book because it's a duology. I haven't read many duologies. I don't think I've read any. No, this would be my first duology. So I'm used to reading trilogies where maybe it's more clearer. Interesting. Anyway, I've read this. I enjoy it, I think. I will let you know when I've read the second one, which will be, who knows? Who knows? Fun snow time. So, having read all those, I was then like, I really need to read my library book because it needs to go back. And because I'm doing my challenge, I was like, I haven't read anything towards my challenge and we've had half the month. So I picked up the Starless Sea. In between doing so, I was also reading some chapters of Inkheart as well, because Inkspell, because it is so mahoosive, and I had started it in January. But because of Polathon, like, I needed to read the Polathon book, so I kind of had a break from it. So I was trying to keep myself going. But anyway, we'll talk about the Starless Sea first. So this was the mystery. I didn't know which way I was going to fall. Was I going to love it? Was I going to hate it? Was I going to be indifferent to it? Because I knew absolutely nothing going in reading this, which is how I like it. I don't want to know about the book. Like, just a general idea of... So lots of people who I like their reading tastes have enjoyed it, but it doesn't work for everyone. But then I've felt that those people who didn't like it are not very lyrical readers, whereas I have enjoyed some of the lyrical stuff. And I do like whimsical things, so I felt that this could be for me. And it was! I loved it. I thought it was wonderful. So I have a few things that I wanted to tweak to make me truly fully love it. There were just some things that I wished could have been slightly different, but very minor things. But generally, this is the cliche. It's a love letter to people who love books, people who want to just lose themselves in libraries. That's what this is. But at the same time, like, lots of people say it doesn't have a plot. It does have a plot. It's just not incredibly linear. It's more of like a mystery unraveling plot, but there's also people that don't necessarily want you to unravel that mystery. They want it to stay hidden. So that's kind of the plot. If you are someone that likes a straightforward story, then this probably won't work for you. Like, it's not going back and forth in the story, but what I love about this book is basically it is kind of made up of 5 stories, in that the protagonist has a book, and in that book are like a collection of like writings and short stories and things, but then you get to read some of those bits that he reads. So that's why it feels like it's stories. So in each part, like one of those books and the chapters in those stories, we get to read. And then we realise that they are intertwined and they kind of crop up again, and it's mysterious and what's happening. And then we have, we discover the harbour of the Starless Sea, which is a very magical, wonderful, lovely, lovely place. And I love it there, and I want to go and stay there, and I love the kitchen, and I want to write notes to the kitchen and have the kitchen send me food and sleep in the bed and just go and peruse all these wonderful library books and just enjoy myself there. And I hope I would love my family and friends enough to come back. Maybe I'd just bring them with me. I don't know. But it was very beautiful. It was very beautiful. Like, it's got lots of wonderful writing in there. I'm talking about this loads, which is great because it means I love it. But I'll try not to say too much because it's going to be in my vlog of my fantasy challenge over 7 years. Top books according to Goodreads. So, I very much loved this book, and I recommend if you enjoy the whimsical. If you like enjoy literary fiction and don't mind things that are a bit weird, then I think you would enjoy this. But if you like a straightforward story and not flowery language, don't read this because you won't like it. So next I'm going to talk about some short stories from Nella Larson. So although I have said that I've read this, this is a bind up. So it includes 3 short stories and 2 novels. The novel that Nella Larson is most famous for is Passing, and that is the novel that caught my attention, that I wanted to read, because it is a book that inspired The Vanishing Half that I also want to read. But I first heard Olivia from Olivia's Catastrophe talking about Passing, and I thought it sounded incredible and I really wanted to read it. And then I found this complete works and thought I'm going to finish on Passing because that's the one I'm most excited about. So I have read the 3 short stories. They're really, really tiny. So it's like I've read this much. So that's 3 short stories and some of the introduction as well. And I enjoyed her writing in those. I felt a bit confused when I finished The Wrong Man. Then I went back and read the introduction and I was like, that makes a lot of sense. So The Wrong Man and Freedom, she wrote, and they were put in like a magazine. So a magazine that would have like little short stories and bits of writing in there. And she herself did she refer to them as hack writing? It's where you're basically writing to get published rather than telling a story you want to tell. And that felt very true, because Freedom in particular felt very stylized. Like it was very much, I am telling this so people will enjoy my writing and think what I've done is very good, rather than this is what Nella Larson wants to write about. Whereas Sanctuary felt a lot more, this is what Nella Larson wants to write about. Sanctuary had a lot more, what's that word when you give your characters like the speech they would speak? Whatever that word is. It had a lot of that. So it had characters talking, I'm sure there's a word, so it had all of that kind of dialogue in it, which really you could read, the characters were really alive. They felt very human, whereas the other ones felt very kind of like 2D kind of painted characters. So I feel like my appetite has been whetted. I think her writing is lovely. I am really keen to see it more fully realised in both Quicksand and The Passing, which I'll be reading in the upcoming months. So let's do Inkspell, because that is the one I then finished next. So I'm having a lovely time in the ink world. I read Inkheart recently-ish and then failed to keep going. But again, I'm reading this as a buddy read with some other readers on Discord, and I'm really enjoying having the opportunity to talk about Inkworld and to be in this world again with these characters. I did enjoy this, but it wasn't as easy to get through as Inkheart. Like Inkheart was just, oh, I'm so happy to be here, la 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 la. And Inkspell was like, oh, I'd forgotten this, I'd forgotten that. But also it was long. I felt that it didn't need to be as long. I felt this could have been edited down, and that would have improved the flow and improved my enjoyment more. But apart from that, it's a really fun children's fantasy story. It's weird, actually. It is middle grade, but I'd say it's more middle grade YA, like very high end middle grade. I mean, look at it. Look at it. There's no way this is going to be suitable for a 7-year-old. But it's just so heavy. But maybe because it's a protagonist is sort of youngish. She 12. I'm not sure. 12, 13. But she very much goes into a land, like she's very kind of mature for her age anyway, and she very much goes into a land where you're like 14 and you're a grown-up, is kind of like how it is. It's got very much that medieval mentality on children's ages. So I think because of the length and the heaviness to it and the darkness to it, I think this definitely needs to be like classed as high-end middle grade, possibly like early YA. So I think it's like that kind of crossover book where it's not quite middle grade, not quite YA thing. But I still enjoyed it. I'm really looking forward to reading Ink Death. There were some more villains that I enjoyed. There were some more characters that we were introduced to that I enjoyed. I enjoyed seeing them in this world, seeing more of their stories. There were some things that I didn't enjoy so much. I remember feeling sort of uncomfortable about when I first read it, and I still have those feelings. But it is what it is. So I do enjoy this, and I do enjoy this world, but I didn't love it as much as I love Inkheart. And then the final book, I felt like I just really want to read something that I feel like I'm just gonna love and I can just chill out with. And I feel like I barely read any middle grade. Inkspell does not count. And I was like, Frostheart. Let's maybe read Frostheart for Polython anyway. Let's finish off the month with Frostheart. This is the final book. This is Rise of the World Eater. And it's the last one in the trilogy. And I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. I thought it ended the trilogy beautifully. There were characters we didn't see of as much as usual, but I understood why those decisions had to happen, and it was important for the book that they happened. But I just, from a personal selfish note, I missed them. And the themes that were being explored throughout all of it really culminated beautifully in here. There wasn't an easy solution. You felt that they were going to get to that point, and it just didn't. From the beginning, like, I felt they were going to reach this solution, and they just continuously weren't reaching the solution. It deals with prejudice so well in here, so well. It deals with not letting your anger get the better of you so well, and it's such a beautiful trilogy. It's so amazing, and it's illustrated throughout. So you have this wonderful peek through, and everything in there, and you know, you have these fantastic illustrations throughout the book, and the other characters are wonderful. It's got a wonderful found family feel. They continue to be true to themselves, and it was just a delightful time, and it finished really well. I don't know if he plans to look at other characters or write more in this world, or if he has other plans, but I'm very keen to see what Jamie Littler does next. I would be very happy to come back to this world, maybe following some other characters and some other adventures in this world, and just maybe having a cameo from these ones sometimes, because I still feel there's a lot of this world that I'd love to explore, and I think there is the potential for more stories from here. You know, there's so much. This map, let me look at this map. Look at this map, and we didn't go to all the places. Having a look at it now, like there's, yeah, like we never, I mean, it's not really a spoiler, but we never went to Skyforge. What's at Skyforge? That's exciting. The Winter's Heart, where's that? We went there, and we went there, and then we went back there. I've not seen a floating stronghold or gone to the Broken Coast. That would be fun. So yeah, there's so much in this map that we didn't get to see. So maybe there will be more. Maybe there will be more. What's my favourite? And I'm also going to talk about one book that I've been reading with my eldest, and one book that I've been reading with my youngest. So I found this book. The book I've been reading with my eldest is Charlie Changes into a Chicken by Sam Copeland. And illustrated by Sarah Horn. So this is a children's book. It is in the like 5 to 8 category. I had so much fun with this. It's definitely a book that I would read even if I didn't have children. It's so funny and it really appeals to my sense of humour. So the premise is basically we have Charlie, and he changes it just one day randomly, changes into an animal. Another day, changes into a different animal, and he has no control over it. And so him and his friends are trying to work out what is causing him to change into different things, and how can they stop him doing it, because they're worried he's going to do it in the school play, and then scientists are going to cart him off to experiment on him. So that's the premise. So it's a ridiculous story anyway. There's a bully character, there's a worry about the teachers, there's a worry about parents. There is a more serious kind of like sideline where Charlie's brother is in hospital. They're waiting like test results and things to see if he's going to get better. But I really love the narrator's voice. So it has, so there we go, lovely illustrations. There he is in the hospital with his brother, and there we go. We've got, if you can see, but we've got footnotes we've got footnotes. So my eldest was fascinated by this. He was like, what is this? He'd never come across them before. When he saw a footnote, he'd be like, oh, let's find the number. So he was working out when the footnote was going to come in and was eager to hear what the footnote had to say, because it's usually very jokey. So I recently read Tom Fletcher's The Christmasaurus in December time, and I enjoyed the story, but like the first part I felt was very narrator heavy. The narrator kept on coming into the story and it wasn't helping me settle with it. Now, this book also has a very... The narrator is like another character in it, and the narrator is having so much fun in this. But the narrator in this didn't bother me. I think just because we knew it was a ridiculous book anyway, and it added to the humour, but it really worked. It really, really worked for me. I'm going to see if I can find... So a couple of things to further illustrate this. So right in the middle, we have... So chapter 3, we then get an interlude where he just talks about there's been no description of Charlie, and then we go back into chapter 3 continued. So there's just this small section in the middle which is just about how Charlie's not been described, and how if you think he looked like this, then you would be right, but you would be also right if you think he looked like this, because you are the reader and you can think he looks like whatever. And then he makes a joke that works, because there's a very popular book series that everyone knows about, and he made it out to describe the same character looking like it. It's like, what do you mean it's been done before? And that really appealed to me, and my eldest got the joke as well and thought that was really funny. And then there's another part where one of their schemes to try and work out why Charlie is changing into animals gets a little bit bigger and bigger. And so he says, right, so the narrator suddenly says, at this point you might have questions, so let's go. And then we've got a whole page of random questions, and this is just hilarious. Just random stuff like, where did this come from, why is this, and then the narrator answering, that's a very silly question, or I'm not wasting my time answering your question, that was a much better question. If that appeals to you, if you enjoy that sort of really sort of obvious silly humour, then I really think you're going to enjoy this book, or enjoy reading this book with your child. And it really worked. So my eldest has just turned 7, and it was perfect for him. It really really appealed to him, and it was just so joyous reading this with him, and just having him burst into laughter about the ridiculousness of certain things, and when we were joking at certain points as well. So I had the best time reading this with him. And the best news is this is one of 4 books, so we are very much going to be getting the next ones. And it's definitely a book that if he didn't like it, I'd just be like, well, I'm going to buy it for me then, aren't I? So then my youngest, who is 4, we have been very much enjoying the Nick Sherratt and Pippa Goodhart You Choose book series. And he has now stopped, but we were pretty much having this every night. I always try and balance it out, because there's loads of picture books that I love to read that just are not on his favourites range. So with my eldest, I could kind of like encourage him to read pretty much everything, and he'd lap it up. But my youngest does a lot more set in his ways. It's like, we will just read the books he wants to read. And if you've ever heard of the Alfie and Annie Rose series, I love them. He loves one of those books and doesn't want to read any others. It's like, no, because that's not Alfie's feet, which he calls Alfie's boots. I want Alfie's boots, just Alfie's boots, nothing else, just Alfie's boots. And so you can't con him into just, what about another one? No, I only like Alfie's boots. But you've not read the others. Very frustrating. So we now have a compromise. He chooses one story, and then I choose a story. And I'm like, no, I'm reading this one. And I just read it. And he has now accepted that. So, and he actually enjoyed some of the other stories I've been reading to him. So win for me. Anyway, back to You Choosing Space. So as you can see, this has just got fantastic, colourful illustrations, which is classic Nick Sherratt. And it's just very imaginative. There's so many things. So the concept of this book is you choose. So it's a really interactive book. You choose where you want to go in the place. So it's just a really great book at promoting discussions. And we have a great time. So we have to make sure we choose for all the family. So even if it's just me and my youngest reading, we have to choose where we think everyone else is going to go. And he tends to like choose the same thing every time. And I'll be like, no, today I'm going to go do this. And he's like, no, mummy, you're doing this. It's like, oh, okay. So when I'm feeling particularly tired, I just let him choose for me. But sometimes when I'm here for the story, which was probably on the first 7 reads, and then after that I was like, sure, you just choose for me. So you get to choose your space outfits. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. Maybe not on Go 20, but he enjoys it, which is the main thing. So if you enjoyed that, then let me know. I am, to be fair, I'm just going to be putting it on there regardless, because I really like to talk about books. And I still enjoy picture books. I enjoy children's books. And you know, if you also enjoy those, then that's great for you. But also if you've got family members and you're looking for other ideas of things to kind of like get them or suggest to them, then maybe this will be helpful. So this was my February reading, which is pretty impressive when you look at it like that. I mean, there's a lot of chunky books in here. I finished out 3 series, which is very exciting for me. There are other things that I want to try and do a little bit more of. I mean, I'm not getting a huge amount of variety at the moment, but that's because I set myself 35 fantasy books to try and read, and I am finishing off lots of fantasy series and allowing myself to just read loads of fantasy, which is my favourite genre. So it's just very fantasy heavy at the moment, which is fine. I love it. What's my favourite? Because why did I decide to do this every month? Because I love this. It's one of my favourite adult series, and I love this. I adored this one because it was a reread and I got to explore it so more and I had just the best time ever. This is very enjoyable, but the jury's still out. I really loved this one. This was such a lovely book, but I think it's harder to compete when you have series because you've loved them for longer. And I didn't love this until halfway through. I was just enjoying it, and suddenly I kind of fell in love. And then Frostheart. Oh. So my least favourite was The Wrong Man by Nella Larson, because it was beautifully written, but it's a very, very short story. You can't connect that well with the characters in a short story, and the plot was very of its time. I mean, these are classics, but it's between these 3. It's between these 3. And I can't have 3. I can't have 3 favourites. I can allow 2, but I can't have 3. Do you know what? I think let's just Winter the Witch. Winter the Witch, because it's a reread and I've just learnt to love it more. So I think when I reread these 2, I'll love them more. So we're going with this one. But I do very much love these. Tell me your thoughts. Have you read these? Do you have similar opinions? Do you have different opinions? I love different opinions. I love hearing how different people like things differently. It's fun. Just be kind. Just be nice. Let's be civil. And yeah, are you tempted to try any of these ones I've spoken about? What have you been reading in February? Have you found a new favourite series? Have you felt a bit slumpy? Let me know. Always love a chat, and I'll see you next time. Happy reading, everyone.